afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
Well viewers, welcome once again to No Budget Reviews Accidental HubNut Rip-Off Edition. This is where we get to pretend that this is a channel run by Ian Seabrook from HubNut. He has interesting taste in cars and he loves Citroens. He loves old Citroens and he loves forbidden fuel Citroens, and this is all three. It's a 1989 Citroen BX 19 DTR with the XUD engine and no turbo whatsoever. These are extremely rare cars and sometimes they do come up for under £1,000. My friend Jordan actually used to own one a couple of years ago that you might have seen on the iDriver Classic channel, and he paid, I think, £450 or something for it. I might be wrong, so if Jordan's watching, I do apologise. He's actually sold that now, so you can still pick them up, and his car did have an MOT, I think, when he sold it, so you can pick them up. Although one that's in this sort of condition, and this is owned by Dan from Dan's Cars in the Country. This is going to be quite a lot more than that. He's actually currently got it up for sale, and I'm very grateful to him for that. He's had it quite a while. You can see it on his channel, but he's decided that he wants to move it on and go for something else. He's already supplied two cars to channel, the Vauxhall Vectra B and the SsangYong Rexton W. But this is what I was going to film before I came to see Rexton W. I was going to actually film this a couple of months ago now, but things didn't turn out well. This was leaking LHM, the fluid. That's all sorted now, so I had to film the Rexton instead. I'm not going to open the boot. We'll actually see that separately, and I'm not going to demonstrate the suspension on the car. Dan will do that in a separate bit of the video. So this is a facelift car. Facelift was late '86, and on this car as well, it's actually got the windows in the rear quarters here. That was only a feature on some of them. Most of them had an opaque panel there. This is the correct set of wheel trims for this car. The car might start sinking down to the back. That's just normal, that's what they do. Let's just get into the front first of all. We'll do things in a different order today. I think Dan's going to be putting some WD-40 something in some of these hinges. Very interesting door pull, and then this. That blanking plate is where the electric window switch would be if this is a left-hand drive car. You'll see it sort of mirrored on the other side. So, in 1989, did you actually get in your PSA car a reasonable size glove box? Well, yes you did, and look, here's the secret mission documents, and they go in. Learn well, PSA, for modern cars where you just get a fuse box instead and they don't move it. Take those out again because we're going to need those to read all these different trim levels and engines later that the BX came with. Very, very comfortable seats, like sitting on a favourite armchair. I'm going to have to open the door with the locking knob. Yes, just like the old days. It's quite long doors actually, for a car that's relatively small. I think we've got a Haynes manual or something in there. Oh, wow. Oh, you sink straight into the seat. Oh, that's comfortable. Funny little sort of headrests. These weird interior door handles again. Actually do get rear door pockets as well. It's kind of very typical of the era, sort of tweed type fabric. It's pretty hard wearing. And I think those are actually ashtrays, viewers. Yes, they are. And I don't know what you'd put in there. I have no idea whatsoever, because they would just fall straight out. Those switches, I don't actually know what those do. They're not the electric window switches, because those are up there. I don't actually know what those... Oh, sorry, this car's got electric rear windows. I do apologise. It's got electric rear windows. So those are the electric rear window switches, and they're there. And the ones for the two front windows are there. Obviously, electric rear windows wasn't really thought of in '82 when they first put out this car. Wow. Got an armrest here. That's also very, very comfortable. And you can see the little side windows on this DTR model. Like a car from the 60s, I know this is a case on some of the older Reliant Scimitars. It's actually got the interior door lights just on the B-pillars there. The electric sunroof does work, Dan has told me that, but I'm naturally not going to use that, because I just don't really like using electric sunroofs in very old cars. I just get a bit nervous about it. Yes, there we go. There is a Haynes manual on the forbidden fuel engine. We've also got this is a picture of the car. There we go. Yes, 14.5 seconds, 3,800 made, 18 left in Britain. It's a very rare car, viewers. And there is the Haynes manual. That's not actually the correct one for the car, because this is a forbidden fuel one. But I can talk about this Haynes manual because it says petrol on it. How wonderful! Oh yeah, so comfortable. The estate, of course, would have even more room than this. Yeah, you know, the trim, which is famously fragile in some of these cars, it's actually worn okay. It's really not that bad. But let's go and sit in the front and somehow get myself out of this comfortable seat. So we'll just take a walk around the front and note we've got the original dealer plates on this car. First thing I noticed when actually getting in there, yeah, Dan's going to put a bit of oil on that, and he's just covered up the wiring as well, is the fact that these stalks, and I'll probably allude to this later, they're the same as on a Peugeot 205. This being a later car, hasn't got the eccentric bathroom scale style dials which were on the pre-facelift cars. This car is an 89 and the facelift was late 86. I've actually got a clock in here, and that actually tells the correct time. Wow, that's brilliant. Shush. Shush. Very, very simple heating ventilation controls. Again, I think sort of Peugeot inspired, because the pre-facelift ones were not like that. Just open up this, another ashtray, because you need one of them, another ashtray, two ashtrays. What? Oh, sorry, that's a coin holder, viewers. I do apologise. That's actually a coin holder. Yeah, for your parking need. It actually says on there. You sort of put 5 francs in there or something. So the car's got manual mirrors. When I drove the TZD Turbo version of this in 2009, I could not find the mirror controls. Dan has told me actually on one of those it'd be there, but this has just got just a normal manual mirrors, and there are the window switches for the front. Obviously, the ones at the rear are down here. Now, this is the selector for the ride height. We'll go and have a look at that a little bit later. I'm not going to demonstrate it here because Dan understands it a lot better than I do. But when the side of the car goes up and down, you'll see that this is in like a normal position, and there is also a service position which puts it right down, and there is an off-road mode, and there's also a tyre change mode. The dials are pretty easy to read. These are kind of PSA type buttons. There's the heated rear window and the fog light, and that's for the rear wash wipe as well. That's interesting. Hazard light switch is just here. That is working. And the car's got just 91,000 miles on the clock. It's not a lot, really. Let's go and take a look at the engine. Here are the suspension spheres. I believe these were meant to be changed about every 4 or 5 years if a car's in regular use. They're not actually, I don't think, particularly expensive to get. Here is the LHM reservoir and regulator and things like that. I hope I got that right. Don't murder me in the comments, please, if I'd got that wrong. And here's the XUD engine. Lots and lots of room to sort of work on it. You can see the gearbox down there as well. There's the dipstick right in the middle there. Just everything's exposed. It's pretty crazy. You do have to wait for this car to actually warm up. There are some glow plugs that the car uses, and you can't just start it like you would a more modern forbidden fuel engine. You do actually have to wait a little while for the glow plug light to go out, just like you know, older cars would have to. But yeah, you know, we've got original sort of slam panel here, all the stickers on it. Total Citroen, and yes, it's just sort of glimpse into the past, really. Right, I think we'll now look at some footage of Dan demonstrating the suspension system, and also we'll take a look in the boot because there's a special way to open and close that. Dan has very kindly agreed to demonstrate the suspension system of the BX. At the moment we're in the off-road mode. You can see it's quite high off the ground. There's a lever in the middle that will take a little look at it in a bit, which puts it up and down. So, and you can go to the service mode now.
So service mode is going to be, that's your tyre change mode.
Yeah, it's tyre change mode, which is right at the top. But it's going.
Not meant to drive it.
No, we're not going to drive it like this. It's right at the top. And by the way, that is just how the engine is. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just incredibly noisy. So we're at the tyre change mode now. Can you drop it back to normal position?
Okay.
So it's going to take a little while. There we go. It's now sinking down into the normal mode, which is the normal road driving mode. That's how it would normally be. And then right at the bottom is the service mode. This is for something like working on an inspection pit, and it's dropped right down to there. And actually, if you leave the car for a little while, it will adopt a position with the nose up in the air and the back at the bump stops, and that's completely normal. Okay, thank you, Dan. So Dan's also opened a boot for me. Now you might think, why has he done that? It's because this.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, it doesn't. This boot normally doesn't stay up. The struts are a little bit worn out, and also the piece of plastic on here, this red bit, is really, really fragile. And yeah, Dan accidentally sort of got a piece off it, which I show here. You can see that's all cracked just there. And so he said, if you're going to use the boot, just either let me do it or just put your hand there. So because I don't want to break the car, and Dan's I've at the moment got somebody interested in buying it, we're just being very careful with it at the moment. But if we lift this up, there's actually
really
anything to see.
There's nothing under there because the spare wheel's under the car.
Yeah, it's like a Peugeot 205.
There's a nut there.
And there it is. There's the spare wheel.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to see, and there's probably a boot light here.
Yeah. Which doesn't work.
But never mind. And there's not much else really. There's nothing else in the car. That's the I think that's the tool for getting the getting the spare out. Yeah. Back in the day, it was very well known for something like 205s for the spares to be stolen. If you had a GTI, they'd take it from underneath the car. But yeah, okay, we will put that down very carefully, not break anything. Thanks again, Dan.
No worries. Pleasure.
Well, viewers, here we are in the Citroen BX 19 DTR. This engine develops, I think it's 70 horsepower, and it is the most relaxed engine I think I've ever driven in my life. There is no turbo whatsoever, and the ride is, well, it's pretty good. Gearbox is typical kind of PSA gearbox from the era. It's very, very kind of sort of wobbly and a bit loose. I think Mr Seabrook would say, because French. So just a very relaxed engine, and this XUD engine went in all sorts of things. The ones obviously that, from my point of view, are things like the R8 Rover 200 and 400. We'll go into the BX engines a little bit later because there are so many of them that I can't possibly remember all of them, and some of the engines had up to 8 power outputs. 8 power outputs. I didn't even bother listing all of them because they were all just ever so confusing. But yes, there were lots of trim levels available too, and I'm not going to go through those here either because I just can't remember all of them. There are so many trim levels, so many trim levels, unbelievable amounts of trim levels in a BX. It's probably the consequence of the fact that the car actually lasted from 1982 or 83 in this country all the way through to 1993. So I think a popular and successful car for them. It's just there's not many of these left, and most of those that are around tend to be powered by this XUD engine, which was available in 1.8 and 1.9 guises. They go for fifth. There we go. Speedo's wobbling a bit. It's a very similar speedo to what you find in something like a Peugeot 205. In fact, these stalks are the same as on a Peugeot 205. The car's actually not as slow feeling as I thought it would be. 0 to 60 I think in this car is something like 15 seconds. It doesn't feel that bad though, and the ride is just remarkable. The camera is shaking a little bit, but it's really not anywhere as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't know really what I expected because I've driven one of these cars before and it just didn't seem like it was anything special, but this really is. And just with this single wiper in the way and sitting in this really comfortable seat, I feel like Ian Seabrook. I understand why he likes these cars. I don't know about this engine. I mean, I respect the XUD engine, but obviously I don't normally talk about it. I prefer probably, a nice 1.9 petrol. But there we go. We don't normally talk about forbidden fuel on this channel, viewers, but somehow we are, because it's such a rare car, and also this is one of the iconic engines of the last 30 years. Here we go, just going to come through a series of bends now. I don't even think I need to drop a gear, I'll just go around, there we go. Yeah, remarkably stable, very little body roll, big monospoke steering wheel ahead of me. It's just a really interesting experience to drive one of these. The 1992 TZD Turbo that I drove didn't feel as good as this, and I think it might be something to do with that this car's got such a good service history on it, and the suspension steers and everything's in good condition. There was an LHM leak to this car, but Dan sorted that. Brakes are really weird, really weird. I mean, it's stopping, but the pedal feels really, really firm. It's either on or off. which I think again is a characteristic of these cars. Do you know what, viewers? I don't know if I want to, you know, take one of these home or something, but I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. And yes, for tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Ian Seabrook. Okay, viewers, as promised, it's time to look at some Citroen BX engines and trim levels. When the car was launched, a lot of the engines came from what we call the suitcase engine range, also known as VX, W and XY engines. They were shared with things like Renault 14 and I think Peugeot 104 as well, and the early 205s. So not in our market, but in other markets, there was a 1.1 engine that developed 58 horsepower, and there was also a lower power version, 54 horsepower for certain markets. I think Italy was one of those. Then there was the 1.4 XY engine that developed 63 horsepower between 82 and 86, 54 between 86 and 89, and then there was also a 71 brake horsepower version. 1.4 TU engine, which actually replaced the XY, that was 71 brake horsepower on carburetor and 74 brake horsepower on injection. Now, there was a BX called the 15E, which was still a 1.6 XU engine, but that did 80 horsepower. There were so many power outputs for the 1.6 XU. I'm just not, sorry, XU. I just can't list all of them. It's too confusing, the information I was finding. So, all I can say is that developed between about 80 and 111 brake horsepower. That's all I'm going to say. The 1.9 XU, the 8-valve version, that developed anything from 103 brake horsepower to 125 brake horsepower in the GTI 8-valve. Now, there was also a GTI 16-valve. Now, that was the top of the range 1.9 XU engine. It developed 160 horsepower. The forbidden fuel engines are a bit easier. Now, they were 1.8 litre engines, precisely 1769 cc's, but badged as 17D. There was a base version, non-turbo, with 60 horsepower. The turbo version was 90 horsepower, 17 turbo D, it was badged as, and then the 19 D, which is this one, 64 brake horsepower originally, and then later on 71 brake horsepower, although for some reason I've seen this car club car checks as a 64. I don't know why. Trim levels, there were a lot of them, an awful lot of them. So this car is a like a series 2. There were sort of 3 series of them. The first series was before the facelift in 86. Then there were more revisions in 89, or April 89, I think it was. But this car is a series 2 because it doesn't have the smoke rear lights that came on later cars. So we've got, wow, the base level, E, RE, TGE, TE, E leader. I remember seeing a BX leader when I was, you know, very young. RS, TGS, TRS, GT, TZS, TXS, TXI, that was a run-out model when the Xantia was coming in. The GT, the GTI, the GTI 16-valve, the 4-wheel drive GTI, the TRI, the TZI, the RD, the TGD, the TXD, the DTR, which is one of these, that was from May 1988. The TZD, but it's the one I've driven before, that was from June 87 onwards. The camber interval on one of these cars, I think, is about 30,000 to 40,000 miles. Most of the engines are belt driven, apart from the odd suitcase engines. And yes, the styling was by Marcello Gandini from Bertone, and it's like a hybrid of the Reliant FW11 and Volvo Tundra concepts. That's a lot of BX facts, viewers. I hope that is sufficient for you. So viewers, should you buy a Citroen BX? If I'm thinking that you know, I've become Ian Seabrook suddenly, who I have met several times. He's a very lovely man, Ian Seabrook. I think if you are him, you've already owned these and you already love them. And I do understand why people would. I mean, it's a pretty crazy thing to drive. It's crazy in here, even if it's a post-facelift car. And it's crazy to drive. It's this engine is really noisy. It's a little bit slow, but it has a lot of torque somehow, and it just kind of gets down the road. It doesn't want to do it in a particularly hurried way, but it does. The suspension is just amazing, really. The brakes are, well, sort of on or off, really, and it just has some of the most character I've ever seen in a car reviewed on this channel. I'm afraid it is a forbidden fuel one, and most of them remaining actually are, and so yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But yes, I mean, this is one of the best ones out there, I think, probably, that's remaining. It's in very good condition. Dan really loves it, and I hope it goes to a good home. That's all I can say. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews Accidental HubNut Rip-Off Edition. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and subscribe to Dan's Cars in the Country as well. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, social media links in the description below, and also click on the notification bell to be informed of new uploads on the channel. Yes, thank you ever so much indeed once again.